Right now, those family group conferencing folks are prioritizing kids under the age of 3 and what we have kids who have what we call APLA goals, which are alternative permanent living arrangements outside of families. We really feel we can make impact by identifying those high repeat cases, which are really those cases that come in with kids under the age of 3, and then the APLA cases, which are those kids who used to be what we call long-term supportive living, right? Those kids who aren't so easily adoptable. They're nice kids, but now they're 8, 9, and 10, and there aren't families lined up at the door to adopt them like there are our younger kids as much. So what's the practice and the work that we do with those families? How do we understand the trauma for those kids and do good permanency work for those families? So those are another area we're spending a lot of time doing work on. I just want to hit these quickly and not hold you up from the conversation. Education is another area I think we've worked very hard at, and we've got some, there were a number of grants, for instance, given out statewide to support collaboration between education systems and child protection. And in a number of areas, I think we've got some very good practice starting. They're a little different. I mean, we have the Orange Athol area, we have the West Springfield area, the Springfield area, all that have done some of these pilot projects. They all kind of have one thing in common, which is a better connection, a regular meeting format and structure between the partners to get support, identify kids early, identify what they need, and hopefully identify resources and action for kids earlier on. I think they're working well. I'd like to really think about how do we take those to scale. Educational advocates is the other thing about education, which I cannot say enough about. Quoting an administrator who I know well, who's done 30 years in the business, said, if there's one thing you've ever done right, that was it. That educational advocates were a home run. And educational advocates are folks that we have staff that are, again, one for each office, that specifically is there to be a connection to school departments, to be part of conversations back and forth, to help problem solve, to be a conduit for communication for that social worker that's out doing 27 different things and maybe sometimes can't get back to the school as quickly as they'd like, and sometimes to be a bridge to help the conversation, because sometimes the school feels frustrated in that maybe the social worker isn't understanding their perspective, what their issue is. And so here's someone in the system trying to help explain that in a different way to the social worker to facilitate that connection and that conversation, which I also think has gone extremely well. And there are places we've done some different things. I mean, working on some things like data exchange, which I think is very promising. One of the things that is very difficult is information about kids and getting timely information about kids. And we have one project, for instance, between us and the Springfield School Department, where we have our IT pieces that we're trying to connect to identify all of our children, how they're doing, what their progress is, early communication about problems, and follow-up so that we can stay on those kids. So the more that we can systematize those, the better off we will be. I guess the other thing I just wanted to mention was the independent living folks, who are somewhere here in the room today. I wish there wasn't a need to support people on the back end. I wish we had done such a great job for these kids that we had no need to do independent living skills, that we had no need to support them on their way out the door because they went out to that loving, stable family we wanted for all of them. But it hasn't always happened. And so what we put in place and have are these folks who do a tremendous job. Madeline Haber, who's here, the supervisor from the unit out here at this end of the state, and her staff, and some of our youth are here today, and I do encourage you to talk to them and make some connections through the conversations today. They do a wonderful job really supporting kids, aging into adulthood in a way that our own social workers, while they do a great job, can't always give attention and time to the detail that some of them need at that end going out. So I'm just going to end by saying I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to just hear today from a number of folks what your ideas are. I know we get accused quite often of not hearing enough from other people and not talking to enough people. One of the things that's become very clear to me over the years is, because I'm out talking all the time, and I never get to everybody, is that there are so many people to talk to. That's really the silver lining to me. She talked at the beginning, Judy did, about what you could do. And it doesn't have to just be adopt a child or foster a child. There are so many things you can do. And when there are so many people doing the work, that one small piece of action, that one thing you did today that made that child in foster care's day, week, month, and then year, because it builds better, is what you can do. And if we get all the folks who have interest in this conversation to all do that one thing, we're in pretty good shape. So I'm very interested. I guess I'd leave by saying I'm not done yet. So I hope you're not. And I hope the call to action conversation today is one that we all get a lot out of. So thank you for putting up with me for a few minutes. Good luck.